the doctors, they went into my hospital room to share the updates with my parents right in front of me. And my mom stopped them and she said, no, no, not in front of him. Because she understood that even though I was in a coma, Linda, that I was still taking in information. So she made the doctors step outside the room, and then that's where they share with my parents that I probably wouldn't be able to walk, talk, or eat on my own ever again. And even if I was able to come out of the coma, there was a good chance that I'd need 24-hour care for the rest of my life. And it was at that point that I started to unknowingly use a system to not only make a full recovery, but run out of the hospital. And that's what I teach to this day in my keynotes to brain injury associations and like other organizations that support individuals that are going through trauma.
Welcome to Linda's Corner, where we bring more hope, healing, and happiness to the world. My name is Linda Bjork, and today we're going to be talking about how to rise, rebuild, and thrive after a crisis. I'm delighted to welcome Nick Prefontaine. Nick was named the top motivational speaker by Yahoo Finance in 2022. He is a 3-time best-selling author, the founder of Common Goal, and the creator of the STEP system. You can reach Nick at his website, nickprefontaine.com, and I'll include that link in the show notes. Welcome, Nick. I'm so glad that you could join with me today.
So excited to be here, Linda. Thanks for
Thank
having
you.
me. Looking
Oh,
forward to getting started, jumping in.
I am. I am excited about getting started and jumping in. So let's do it. Let's go back in time a little bit. You're 14 years old. You're snowboarding. And the day does not turn out the way that you anticipated. Kind of a life-changing moment. Can we start there?
Sure, I'll actually reel it in a little bit more than that. I was my whole story started when I was at, well, for all intents and purposes, um got released a little bit early from school that day of my snowboarding accident back February 5th, 2003, because we had ski club. So always a big deal when you're that age to get released a little bit early from school. So my friends and I all brought our snowboard gear, Linda, onto the bus to get ready so we wouldn't miss a precious moment once we got to the mountain. And we got to the mountain, headed right for the chairlift. And the chairlift actually went right over the terrain park where all of the jumps were. Like they have jumps and rails and everything like that for those of you non skiers and snowboarders out there. So I knew as soon as I saw it that I had to go off the biggest jump in the terrain park. So there wasn't even a moment of thinking, oh, maybe I should be careful today, or maybe I shouldn't do that. I was definitely doing it. I mean, right down to the fact that I was already thinking about what we would do after I landed that huge trick. So got to the top, buckled into my snowboard, took a breath of that crisp winter air, and confidently charged towards that jump with all my speed. And going into the jump, I caught the edge of my snowboard, and that's the last thing that I remember. So they wanted to bring a helicopter to the mountain to rush me to the hospital, and they couldn't because it was too windy. So they had to send in an ambulance. And out of the 6 paramedics, there was only one on staff that was able to intubate right on the spot. And I needed that to be able to breathe. Lucky for me, he was one of the paramedics that showed up to the mountain that day. Um, so, I mean, there are several things that I still can't explain because of the accident in that day. And now I know that one of them is the reason why I'm here with you today. So, no matter the severity of your crisis, your decision to take action is your first step. So, retelling the story is always easy for me because there are 3 things that I credit being able to be here today and tell you the story. So, the first one I already shared was the right paramedic showed up at the mountain. Something else I learned after the fact is that the goggles that I was wearing were the only protection that my head had. And I wore some pretty thick goggles over my eyes with a lot of padding. And I never would have really fathomed that I would need them to brace my fall. So this is from experts, eyewitness accounts, doctors, that kind of thing. They said that not only did they brace my initial impact, but as I continued to roll down the mountain and continued to hit my head, the goggles moved to cushion each blow between my head and the ice. And the third thing, which is, I think, the most important, once I was at the hospital, I made it to the hospital. I was out. I was resting in a partially induced coma in the ICU room, unable to communicate with anyone. And the doctors, no fault of their own, but they went into my room, my hospital room, to share the updates with my parents right in front of me. The not so good news, not so good news, not so good news, because they can't paint a rosy picture for liability reasons. So they started to share that all in front of me, and my mom stopped them and she said, no, no, not in front of him. Because she understood that even though I was in a coma, Linda, that I was still taking in information. So she made the doctors step outside the room, and then that's where they share with my parents that I probably wouldn't be able to walk, talk, or eat on my own ever again. And even if I was able to come out of the coma, there was a good chance that I'll need 24-hour care for the rest of my life. So my parents, to their credit, didn't accept this like so many patients do as a death sentence. They took the information, thanked the doctors, and allowed me to treat it like any other situation. So this was really no different than any other challenge that I'd faced up to this point in my life. So I ended up being in the coma for 3 weeks. I really don't remember a month because remember, it was a partially induced coma. And it was a month after my accident that I was transported to a rehab hospital in Boston. And that's where my, lack of a better term, my memories started. They start to come back and fire. Like I like started to have foggy memories at that point. And initially I was placed on the third floor, which was reserved for the most critical of cases. And I mean, I hardly have any memory of being on that third floor because I was still coming off the drugs and medication from that partially induced coma. Then shortly after, I was transported down to the second floor, and that's where really all my memories are from. And it was at that point that I started to unknowingly use a system to not only make a full recovery, but run out of the hospital. And that's what I teach to this day in my keynotes to brain injury associations and like other organizations that support individuals that are going through trauma, like 45 and 60-minute keynotes. And also in Step, the ebook. So I'll give like a 10,000 foot view, and then if anyone's interested at the end, I can let them know how they can download it for free. How's that sound?
Fantastic. We're going to move right into it and get into the STEP program.
Yeah, I'll give like a 10,000 foot view, and then you can and make sure to stop me at any point, and we can definitely go back and hit any questions that you have.
Yes.
The all right, so STEP is an acronym. It stands for support. Make sure that you have the support of your family and friends right from the beginning. This is going to have you falling back on relationships that you build prior to your setback. T is trust. Trust that once you take your first step, your next step's always going to be available to you. And this also starts with trusting that voice that we all have inside of ourselves. And make sure you're tuning into that and listening to that. And that E is energy. So maintaining your energy allows your body's natural ability to be able to heal itself. And medication has the potential to get in the way of that. So you have to be careful with that. And I mean, just to give you a little aside, it was a partially induced coma. So if I didn't have modern medicine, I wouldn't be here today. However, what we found and what my parents found more accurately at that time is that there's a limit to that. And as soon as you can get off the medication, the better. Um, and that's what I did a month after my accident. My parents tried to get me off the medication. P, finishing step, is persistence. So once you take your first step, your next step's always going to be available to you. Follow it. And by continuing to move forward every day, you are building an unstoppable momentum. So if you fast forward less than 60 days later, after being transported to the rehab hospital, I realized my goal of running out of the hospital. And it wasn't like my work was done at that point. I mean, it was just a start, if anything. I had to continue to go to outpatient therapy for another 6 months, along with being tutored all summer long, 5 days a week, in order to continue on to high school with the rest of my classmates. So I think right there, and again, I said stop, make sure you stop me, but I didn't take a
No,
breath.
I didn't
I didn't
stop you
take a
because,
breath.
but that's okay because I loved the 10,000 foot overview. So, we're going to go into all of these details, but if it's okay, I'm going to go even back further to the day of the accident because I'm thinking as a mom, I'm a mom, and you send your 14-year-old kid off to school and then they're going to do their after school fun, super activity. You were with your buds, you were on your own. So your parents weren't there with you. And was it the first run down the hill?
Yeah, yeah, it was the
First
first
run.
one. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So that was not what you intended at all. And when you're a teenager, you just figure you're invincible. And it is kind of surprising when we find out that we're not.
Yeah.
So this kind of I'm sure it was a shakeup on a lot of different things. I loved how when you're going through this story and this scenario, which is horrible and completely unexpected, that you were able to pinpoint those miracles, those little things in there that made all the difference. And when you find those things, I think it helps us even when we're looking at our experience from a 10,000-foot view, it helps us to be able to have hope that it's like not the universe and God and everything is all against us, that there are those little things in there that can give us some hope that things can be okay. Um, I don't know. My mind with your story, I have a young friend. She was 16 and she had a skiing accident, and unfortunately hers did not end like yours. She died right there.
Oh, I'm
Um,
sorry to hear that.
so that it's almost a little bit personal, but I'm super, super grateful that you had this positive, wonderful thing. And even my friend, his daughter, as he is able to talk, he noticed the miracles within his story with a very different outcome. But he still saw that there were beautiful things that took place that prepared them for that. And I just, my mind is a whirl that there's I don't know, Deus Machina, God is in the works, those little details to prepare us for our experience. So you have this horrible thing. Fortunately, they were able to get you to the hospital and put you in this coma so that you can, I don't know what they expected because they figured you'd be a vegetable forever. Was that kind of what they were thinking is telling your parents,
Yeah.
well, just keep him plugged in as long as you want to see him? Is that what they were saying?
Well, exactly. They were given the just because they, as physicians, they can't paint a rosy picture of like, oh no, it's gonna be fine because they get people would sue the pants off them.
Right.
So it was yeah, they had to give us that. Well, more accurately, they had to give my parents that, and it was great that my mom thought, no, no, not in front of him. Let's make him step out, step outside and then share the news because they didn't want any of that to get through to my mind. So, I think that's super important. And also, if I can go a little bit deeper, what I could do is
Yes,
share
please.
how the step system, like how it even came about and how this whole thing with Common Goal and my speaking even came to be. So uh,
Yes, please.
if you fast forward less than, or not less than, but 18 months later, after finishing my rehab from my snowboarding accident, I got my start in real estate, and that was door knocking, pre-foreclosure doors. So homeowners that have received at 16 years old, if you can picture this, homeowners that have received a notice of default letter from the bank, meaning that they had missed several payments on their loan and the bank was going to foreclose on the house. So I would get a list of these and go and meet them, and try to set up meetings for one of our investors to come out and meet with them the following week to help them out of their unfortunate situation. And it took a mentor 4 years ago pointing out to me the fact that because when you're younger, time is compressed. So things like 6 months, 12 months, 18 months out, even 24 months seems like a lifetime away. Um, However, the older I get, I'm really seeing that it's really not that much time. But when I was younger, it was a lot of time. So she pointed out because it was so soon after my accident that it really was a part of my recovery. Going door to door, helping people out of their unfortunate situation. So I continued doing that throughout high school. And then when I got out of high school, I got my real estate license and was a realtor helping buyers and sellers. And then in 2014, my dad came to me and he needed help with all these homes that he was buying creatively. So without using any of his money or signing personally, he was accumulating all these properties and he needed someone to put them on the rent to own market. So this is different than listing them as a realtor. So I finally came around to the idea that, oh, okay, I can do this right alongside being a realtor. So I started doing that. And then over the course of 13 or 14 months, my income shifted where I was making the vast majority of my income with him as an investor doing this, like working with his rent to own buyers and everything. And it didn't even make sense for me to keep my real estate license in January of 2016. So I let it go and I joined him full time. Now, since 2016, we have been holding events where I've always had the opportunity to tell my story. And this has meant the world to me because since I've graduated from high school, Linda, I've always had this voice in the back of my head, no matter what I'm doing. Uh, yeah, great, Nick. But what you really need to be doing is telling your story from stage and helping trauma survivors thrive with the rest of their lives. So I always stop by sharing my story for maybe 10 or 15 minutes once in a while at our events was doing it. Kind of, but not really. And in 2019, after hearing me share my story at one of our events, I was approached by a woman named Sharon Spano. Sharon complimented me on my story and my talk and said if I was ever looking to fine tune that message and bring it to another level so I could help the most amount of people, she could introduce me to a few mentors that have helped her along the way. And I wasn't ready yet, Linda, because I was actually in the final throes of a voice issue that I developed in 2012. It sounded like it was really hard for me to get the words out. I had a lot of tension here in my throat, so I wasn't ready in 2019. However, I always hung on to her card and in May of 2021, after the voice issue had worked its way out of my system, I finally reached out to her and said, okay, what do I need to do? Who should I talk to? She introduced me to her mentor, Trisha Brook. And on that first call with Trisha, I shared my goals and what I was looking to do. Trisha recommended that I do the speaker salon that fall 2021 in New York City. So you commute to New York City for 6 weeks in a row. That's a speaker salon every Wednesday. During the speaker salon, oh, she said that's 25,000. So at a soul level, I had to do this. I had to continue to follow this. And during the speaker salon, Trisha pitched the idea of what it would look like to work with her one on one. She said that she helps speakers to help them build out their speaker platform. I didn't even know what that was. However, I just knew I had to do this. She said, that's 75,000. So I said, I don't have that in my back pocket. However, give me a week and I'll figure it out. And 6 days later, I wired her the money. And to me, this wasn't even a decision. I had to do this. And I think it's so important to share that, because without saying yes to Trisha in this 3 second decision, I wouldn't be where I am today, which is she actually helped me launch Common Goal, my company, and also write and develop a business, write and develop several keynotes. Now I share 45 and 60-minute keynotes at brain injury associations all over the country, and also do podcast guesting like this. And none of it would have been possible if I said no in that 3 second decision. So Trisha was the one that actually pulled the step system out of me. So the step system is actually just how I was raised. It's an internal system, how I've dealt with things throughout my life. So it took Trisha asking me, Linda, saying, all right, so you have this great story. You got into a snowboarding accident, you were in a coma, and then you ran out of the hospital. How'd you do it? I don't know. I just got up out of bed and did the best I could. And she's like, she leaned in and was like, no, not good enough. So she kept asking me to a point where I was frustrated. I think I may have ended that call, and I was paying a lot of money, obviously, for these calls. I only had 10 calls with her. However, I'm so happy we went through that process, because she helped pull the step system out of me. And that's like 90% of what I do to this day. So, um, so happy I made the right decision, and I'm helping people where I am today with Common Goal.
Oh, isn't that beautiful? Okay, let's take your story and let's walk it through step. First of all, it sounds like you have incredible parents. You've talked about your mom and her wisdom and her compassion. You've talked about your dad and his wisdom, and also his ability to take risks and to be able to understand things. So, amazing support system. And then your support system grew with these incredible mentors as you worked your way along the path. That's fantastic. And you were smart enough in those decision-making moments to say, yes, I am grateful for this support. I am grateful for this next learning opportunity. And on your trust, and I think trust and persistence seem to go hand in hand. One is the trust that the next step is going to come, and the persistence is, now that the next step is here, I'm going to act on it. I'm going to trust, I'm going to do, I'm going to trust, I'm going to do. And I think that's beautiful. And it's amazing when you talk about the steps that you went through. That is not obvious from your starting point to your finishing point where you were going to go. How on earth would anyone assume that being 16 years old and going door to door or talking to people about their their home and their mortgage would lead to a speaking career? I mean, that's not intuitive, but it's amazing how that helped you to take the next step. And who would think that getting your realtor license would be the next step into this path that you've taken? It's a beautiful pinball kind of a thing as you're working your way to what really brings you satisfaction and fills your soul. Something that voice told you, this experience that I had was not just for me. And I think that that's amazing. So let's see. And also your energy. Would you help me with the energy one? I didn't quite understand that one as strongly as I did the other steps in the steps.
Sure. So that's energy has evolved for me, and it continues to evolve, and it will continue to evolve for you as the individual. That's however you're applying the step system. So the reason I shared energy, that it's important to make sure that you're not taking being pumped with all the medication, because medication can get you in trouble with regards to your healing. So our bodies have an innate ability to be able to heal themselves. and that medication can get in the way of that. So that was my focus while I was in the hospital. So if I can, I'll give you a little sidebar, a little story. So after I came out of the hospital, not the rehab hospital, but the intensive care unit. My parents wanted to get me off of the medication as soon as possible, and they knew of the body's natural ability to be able to heal itself. So, at the rehab hospital, I would always have part of my support was I would always have either my uncle or my dad, usually my dad, but when he couldn't be there, my at night, stay with me in a cot next to my bed. So like my dad, my uncle, grandfather. On this particular incident that I'm referring to, it was my grandfather that was staying with me in a cot next to my bed. Now, I hadn't been cleared to walk yet, so on my own. So I would always have to get a nurse's attention or my dad or uncle to help me to the bathroom in the middle of the night. I woke up, I had to use the bathroom, and I leaned over my bed and I called Bub. I call him Bub. I still call him Bub. Um, he couldn't hear me. So I was like, all right. So I lowered the hospital bed and made it to the bathroom. I was able to get back to my bed. Nothing happened. However, the hospital found out the next day, Linda, and they freaked out. They're like, oh, we can't have this and liability. He can't be doing this during the night. So here's what we're going to do to fix it. We're going to give him this many cc's of this great new medication and this many cc's of this other medication. And that should calm him down so he's able to sleep through the night. And my mom heard this and she's like, no, you're not. Just ask him not to do that again. So they asked me not to do it and nothing ever happened again. But if I didn't have a support with me at all times, an advocate, they would have just gave me medication to make their jobs easier. And you have to make sure you advocate for yourself. So that has evolved, though, I would say. So now, what taking care of my energy is, I meditate and do qigong for anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes a day, not a day, but 3 to 4 times a week. Along with going to natural therapies like Tuina, cranial sacral massage, those kind of things to help keep my energy high. So I'm able to like be here with you today and impact and affect individuals that are in the midst of their own trauma. So
Wow.
it's evolved and continues to evolve.
I'm so glad that you shared that story. That little tidbit is just so amazing and so beautiful. Here you are, and we're going into your story where you are not cleared to walk. In fact, not long ago, you were in a coma, and the prognosis was you are never going to walk, you are never going to eat, you are never going to do anything on your own. And now you are to a point where I don't even know if you knew you could, but you figured you probably could. And and to be able to get up and to take care of your own needs is amazing. And I can understand from the hospital point of view, they're concerned about liability. But it's fascinating to me that the response is, well, let's drug him so he won't get up and do that
I
again.
know, and I'm not sharing that to disparage hospital
Nope,
workers or anything, but
no,
they're trying to do the best they can. But
right.
they can't do the best they can if they have all these liabilities running around the hallways at night.
Right. Absolutely. And it depends on the scenario. What my mother-in-law was struggling with dementia, and they did have to drug her so she wouldn't run away because she was very confused and it helped her to hold still. So I think in that scenario, that really was helpful. But in your scenario, as a young man who still has his mental capacity to be able to reason with you and say, that's not safe. Please don't do it. I mean, that's a lot easier and it's a
You would
lot
think.
healthier. So energy, as I'm understanding it, first of all, you're talking about um, your physical energy and being able to allow your body and your mind to do its natural healing processes to be able to take care of you. And it's physical and it's also mental and emotional and And all of this is helping really you be the best version of you so that because you are the most important component of your success story. So I love it. I love it. Thank you for sharing that. What a funny, funny thing. All right. I would love to hear a little bit more about your movement, Common Goal.
Common goal. So that's like all right, so that's where the step system lives. It's like within Common Goal, that's my website, nickprefontaine.com. So I've been doing a lot of speaking, usually at annual conferences for brain injury associations and alliances all over the country. Also, several webinars I've done for them, various ones. A few of them have been the Brain Injury Association of America. I did a webinar for them a couple of years ago. And also, like for instance, the Brain Injury Association of Maryland. I was one of their closing keynote speakers back in 2023. So uh, by sharing my message and look with keynotes, it's a lot of fun because I have time. So I can share a lot of fun, funny stories from when I was in the hospital. Um, so it's really just to get my story out there more with that's what Common Goal is, and to get it into the hands of more people that are struggling with any kind of life challenge, trauma, or other crisis. So um yeah, I work as well with one-on-one work with clients. So all types of different individuals, just to help spread the step system and to help more and more people. That's really my main goal. I mean, as far as with Common Goal, the only product that I have is the step video series. And that is individual videos for each letter: support, trust, energy, and persistence, along with your own workbook and exercises. And that's only $37. You can get that on my website. But that's if you're looking to go a little bit deeper than just step the ebook, the free ebook, which I'll give away, which I think we're about there, Linda, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Can you give that
Is
away?
that absolutely? So
Yeah.
on your website, do they need to do anything or say anything or?
Yeah, if they go to nickprefontaine.com/step, they can download the whole step system for free and learn all about support, trust, energy, and persistence. Because believe it or not, it's only a 10,000-foot view, what we covered today of the step system.
Yes, absolutely. And that's kind of what our purpose here today is, just an introduction and to leave people a little bit hungry so that they will go to the source to be able to get that satisfaction of how does this apply to me? And I love that the message of your Common Goal, the message of everything is to be able to see challenges not as barriers, but as the foundation for resilience, growth, and success. And that is what you have done. And I'm very proud of you. And thank you for visiting with me today.
Oh, thank you. This has been fun. This has been a lot of fun.
In closing, I'd like to share a quote by Peter Diamandis. He said, "If you think it is impossible, then it is for you." Today, I invite our listeners to stop limiting what is possible for you. See you next time on Linda's Corner. Thanks for tuning in to Linda's Corner podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share it with your friends to help us inspire even more listeners. Be sure to visit hopeforhealingfoundation.org for free and affordable resources to help you overcome life's challenges. And explore healingbreathworkdetox.com, where you'll find transformative tools for deep inner healing and lasting change. Also, don't forget to check out my books, Crushed, A Journey Through Depression, and You Got This, an action plan to calm fear, anxiety, worry, and stress. Your journey to hope, healing, and happiness starts here.